Alrighty, so here we are on lesson 3, divide whole numbers and decimals. So we're going to be using our standard algorithm. So we have 78 divided by 4, so when I put my bar up here, 78 goes on the inside and 4 goes on the outside. So how many groups of 4 go into 7? That is 1, so 1 goes up top, we subtract the 4, and we're left with 3, and we bring down the 8. And how many groups of 4 go into 38? 9 groups of 4 go into 38. 9 times 4 is 36, which is what we subtract. So we're left with 2. And now, because I have a number left over, I need to put a decimal in at the end and bring it up and add a 0, and then I can bring that down. So how many groups of 4 go into 20? That would be 5. I subtract 20, and I'm left with 0. So I'm all done. So my final answer is 19.5. Number 2, I have 1025 divided by 4. So my 1025 goes on the inside, my 4 goes on the outside. 4 does not go into 1, so we're going to look at how many groups of 4 go into 10. That would be 2. Subtract 8, and I'm left with 2, and I bring the other 2 down. How many groups of 4 go into 22? That would be 5 groups. So I subtract 20, I'm left with 2, and now I bring down the 5. How many groups of 4 go into 25? 6 groups. Subtract 24, I'm left with 1, but I have no numbers left up top, so that means I need to add a decimal, bring it straight up, and then add a 0, and bring the 0 down. How many groups of 4 go into 10? That would be 2. I subtract 8, so I'm left with 2. Add another 0, bring it straight down. How many groups of 4 go into 20? That would be 5. And I subtract 20, and I'm left with nothing. So my final answer would be 256.25. Number 3, same idea here. My 421 is going to go on the inside. My 8 is going to go on the outside. So how many groups of 8 go into 4? That doesn't work. So how many groups of 8 go into 42? That would be 5 groups. So I subtract 40, and I'm left with 2. Bring down the 1. How many groups of 8 go into 21? 2 groups fit in. Subtract 16. I'm left with 5. I have no numbers left though, so I need to put in a decimal. Bring it straight up, add a 0, and bring that down. How many groups of 8 go into 50? That would be 6 groups of 8. 6 times 8 is 48, so I subtract 48. I'm left with 2. I need to add another 0. Bring it down. How many groups of 8 go into 20? That would be 2 groups, so I subtract 16. I'm left with 4. Bring down another 0. And 5 groups of 8 go into 40. We subtract 40, and we're left with nothing, so we are done. So our final answer is 52.625. Now down here, numbers 4, 5, and 6, we've got some decimals. So remember, we need to first pull the decimal out before we can do division. So what you do first is you set it up. So we'd have 288 on the inside, 2.4 on the outside. And now to get that decimal out, I need to multiply the whole thing by 10 to move that decimal over. So I'd have 24 now on the outside. On the inside, I'll have to add a 0, so it'd be 2,880. And now we just do our regular division that we've been doing. So one group of 24 goes into 28. So I subtract 24. I'm left with 4. I bring down my 8. 2 groups of 24 go into 48. So I subtract 48, and I'm left with 0. And now even though I'm left with 0, I still have a 0 to bring down, and we know 0 groups go into that. So I subtract 0, so 120 would be my answer. Same thing here on number 5, so you want to set it up to start with. So my 1.18 goes on the inside, my 0.003 goes on the outside. Now here I need to move that decimal spot 3 places, so that means I need to multiply by 1,000. So then if I reset it up, I'd have 3 on the outside, and on the inside I've had 1,180. So 3 does not go into 1, but 3 does go into 11 3 times. So I subtract 9, I'm left with 2, and I bring down the 8. 3 goes into 28 7 times, not 7 times, sorry, 9 times. So 9 goes up top, and then I subtract 27, I'm left with 1, and I bring down my 0. 3 goes into 10 3 times, so I subtract 9, and now I'm left with 1, so that means I need to add a decimal, bring it straight up, and then bring down a 0. And then 3 groups of 3 go into 10 again, so I subtract 9, I'm left with 1, I bring down another 0. So I think you can see the trend here. We're going to have a repeating decimal. We're just going to keep doing this forever. So our final answer would be 393.3 with the repeating bar above it. So what's in the box here? And our last one here. So for this one, if you go to set it up, my 7.75 goes on the inside and my 9 goes on the outside. Because I'm not dividing by a decimal, I can just start working. 9 does not go into 7, so I need to bring that decimal straight up, and I'm looking at how many groups of 9 go into 77. That would be 8. So I subtract 72. I'm left with 5. I bring down the other 5. How many groups of 9 go into 55? That would be 6. So I subtract 54. I'm left with 1. And now I need to bring down a 0. One group of 9 goes into 10, so I subtract 9, and I'm left with another one, which means I bring down another 0. So again, I'd have a repeating decimal, so my answer would just be 0.861 repeating. Okay, so that's all we're going to do for the video, and then we'll do some more practice in class together.